What's up, guys? So today I'm going to do a double movie review, which is something that I have never done before. We're just going to experiment and see how this works out because I saw two Netflix films back to back and I just figured, why not? Why not just group them together and go ahead and kill two birds with one bone? So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into it, not waste anybody's time. The first film that I'm going to be talking about is Apostle. So Apostle is a film that I actually didn't hear anything about until it was actually released on Netflix. And even though I didn't really hear about it until, fairly recently, I was actually really excited to see it because when I heard about it, I heard that Gareth Evans is directing this film, and I like that guy because he made The Raid and The Raid 2, and I really love those films, obviously. Both The Raid and The Raid 2 are, quite honestly, some of the best action films that I've ever seen in my entire life. Granted, I haven't seen that much action, but from all the action movies that I've personally seen, this ranks definitely among the best. But on top of me liking these films, Dan Stevens plays the main character in this film, which also got me excited because I like that guy a lot in The Guest. I thought Dan Stevens was well casted in The Guest, and he was pretty convincing in his role in that film as well. So yeah, I was actually pretty pumped to see this movie despite me really only hearing about it like a few days ago. And another reason why I was really excited to see this movie on top of all that shit is that it revolves around a cult. The film is basically the main character going to this isolated island to go save his sister from this cult that basically, like I said, just completely isolated themselves and established their own little society far away from any kind of real civilization. So for those who are actually familiar with my channel know that I really like movies that tackle this subject. Anything that has to do with religions or cults or anything that has to do with some sort of faith-based worship as its main theme, excites me because I like to see what films can do with that kind of subject matter. So that's another reason why I was really excited. And guys, I was kind of fucking let down by this movie. But before I get too ahead of myself, it's not that I dislike this movie. There are plenty of things about this movie to like and appreciate. It's just I felt that the screenplay and the direction it went with its story and the characters and how it handled the overall cult theme, it was just all more batshit and kind of convoluted, more convoluted than I thought it was going to be. Really the biggest issue I have with this film is the screenplay. Because it's not a very dense or focused story. It just comes off more shallow and scattered more than anything. The film really hits a certain point where you realize that this is not going to be the grounded, kind of rooted to reality type cult study film that you thought it was going to be. I mean, I had an idea that this film was going to have sequences of action and really extreme violence, and it does definitely have that. But I just thought that it would be a little bit more condensed and a little bit more focused, and it just kind of goes kind of all over the place and just for some reason feels the need to do certain things and go certain routes. But honestly, some of the routes that it takes, I didn't dislike all of them. There were some ideas and certain alleys that this film went down where I'm just like, okay, I kind of do like that concept. I actually do think that concept is thought-provoking, or it'll go down a different way, and there's just sequences of just really brutal, graphic gore, and I liked going down that road too. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this film did have a lot of neat concepts and ideas, but it's like it only gave you like little splashes of each one without really staying focused on one and really trying to exploit a really good idea. Something will occur in the film and you're like, oh, okay, I like what's happening. I'm enjoying this kind of context I'm experiencing. But then it'll kind of just forget about it, move on to the next contextual conflict. And the film kind of does that often to where it just can't stay on page. And on top of all that, this film is 2 hours and 10 minutes long, which sure isn't the longest film length, but it's still kind of long. And like I said, this film goes in a lot of different directions to where you just know that they could have cut a good chunk of that and just put together a more concise piece. But the film also does have some pretty decent aesthetics. The cinematography in this movie is pretty solid. There's some really nice looking shots throughout this film. And the action is pretty good. It's not as good, not nearly honestly as good as it was filmed in The Raid and The Raid 2, But the action's there, and when some of the good action scenes hit, it hits pretty well. Now, the blood and the violence and the gore, there are moments where it's just like, wow, they really went there. And I enjoyed that aspect of it as well. So it's not like it's a bad movie. It's just, I was hoping for something that wasn't as scattered and batshit. Something that was a little bit more focused. Something that was a little more thematic. Now, to give it some credit, there is like a supernatural core to this film that seemed like it was trying to achieve some sort of metaphor, some sort of like thematic metaphor. I'm not sure, that I might be giving the film too much credit there, but I think there's enough evidence to say that they probably were trying to go for something metaphorical with that kind of supernatural core to the movie. But really, it's not bad. It's just kind of disappointing and let me down. So I'm going to give Apostle a 6 out of 10. Gave it a barely fresh rating, just because there's a nice handful of scenes in this movie that I really enjoyed and appreciate. And the way the film ended, it was pretty interesting. You know, I don't know if everybody's gonna agree with that, but I thought the angle it went with the very end of the movie was kind of intriguing. Alright, I've had enough talking about Apostle. Let's go ahead and move on to Cam. So, Cam is a film that I really didn't know existed until today. I went to work, and my cousin was like, hey, there's this movie Cam that just released on Netflix, and a lot of people are saying that it's good. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a review for it. And he was like, okay, you should. And now I'm here. And by the way, Mandy has absolutely nothing to do with this. It just looks nice and purple like that. So Cam, I really didn't have much expectation going into this. I heard that it was good, but it's a fairly new movie, so I really don't know. But at least since some people were saying it was good, I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. And right when I turned it on, all I see is Blumhouse production sign just come on. And I'm thinking, shit, I've probably made a huge mistake. But I was able to bury that and go into this film with an open mind. And I actually like this movie quite a bit. This movie surprised me. I can really tell why people like it. It's paced very well. It's engaging throughout the entire film. I can't even think of a moment where I was bored. In my opinion, it's actually directed and edited very well. It's put together very well. And the overall aesthetic to this film is really pretty to look at. As you can see, like, this film is filled with all kinds of kind of neon purples and blues and pinks. Now, there are moments in this film where the plausibility level just kind of drops to the floor. And you're just like, I don't think cops would treat the situation like that. But this film still managed to be suspenseful even with those flaws. I really found this entire movie to be quite thrilling. And I really didn't think I was going to come out here and say that, but it is thrilling, kind of from start to finish. What I also liked about it was that I thought it handled the whole, like, sex work thing very well. I thought it was captured exactly the way it should be captured. And, like, the little exchanges you get from, like, the chat box to the cam girl and, like, the back and forth, that was put together and directed very well. It felt like you were in that situation whenever it was happening. And a lot of those webcam segments were actually unsettling. And that's just because the directing was great, the acting was great, and just, again, the way that it was all put together and chopped together just felt really real and genuine. One thing that I thought this film really did kind of lack was more insightful thematic statements. Because, I mean, this film is handling a subject like webcam sex work, which nowadays is kind of a huge thing, but it's not really explored this much in film. At least I haven't seen a lot of films that really tried to explore this topic and make it the core subject of their film. And I'm not saying that this film doesn't say anything about it. I mean, this film, you can walk away from this film extrapolating certain meanings from it and what it's trying to say about this kind of line of work. But I just feel like it didn't give you enough to really chew on about the subject, and that was kind of disappointing. So I think it does have a decent message by the end of it, but I don't know, I just wanted a little more. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film, surprisingly. I thought it was pretty suspenseful throughout. I thought it was directed well, I thought it was edited well. I thought it had some pretty good performances, especially by the main lead actress. I don't really know who she is or her name. I'm sorry, I'll probably put it up in some text so at least people know, but she was very good in this movie. She was convincing. And she even has a decent she actually has some depth to her. You know, she has a family in this film that are included in a you know, kind of insightful way. So yeah, it's surprisingly solid. So I'm going to give Cam an 8 out of 10. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to my double Netflix review. I hope y'all enjoyed this format. If not, just dislike the fuck out of the video so that way I know to never do this shit ever again. But if you really like what I had to say about these films, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.